The Biden administration has initiated an unprecedented attack on outdoor recreation, making it harder for everyday Americans to recreate on public lands and waters. While the types of activities we enjoy vary depending upon our geography, me being from Wyoming, we share the negative consequences of overburdensome regulations related to recreation that is being imposed by this administration. And I hate to tell you this, but it's going to be very difficult to ultimately protect the right whale, and not because of your industry, but because the Biden administration, the activist bureaucrats at the NOAA, and the so-called scientists refuse to acknowledge perhaps the most significant threat to the species at issue. The construction and operation of the multiple wind energy projects in the Atlantic Ocean and their obsession with global warming will ultimately make it impossible to protect the right whale and other species because they refuse to acknowledge that their cure is not only wrong-headed, but so environmentally destructive. The fact is that they don't care about the right whale or the millions of birds that are being killed or the poor little children mining cobalt in the Congo. They care about destroying disfavored industries and furthering a radical agenda that threatens important food and other industries. Now we're seeing an attack on thousands of recreational vehicle owners, and with more than 63,000 registered recreational saltwater vessels measuring 35 to 65 feet in states across the proposed impacted area, this proposed rule has the potential to impact more than 340,000 American jobs and the destruction of nearly $84 billion in economic contributions. I particularly appreciated the testimony of Captain Fred Gamboa, who said, quote, "I am not an outsider speculating on how the proposed rule may impact charter boat operations like mine and many others up and down the coast. I know how to operate my business and what my customers want from a trip on one of my boats," end quote. The bureaucrats in Washington either don't know what Mr. Gamboa knows, or they simply don't care about the facts, and neither answer is acceptable. Captain Gamboa, can you describe for us the ripple effects in your coastal community's economy if charter captains have to start canceling fishing trips? And what I mean by that is that I would assume that there are going to be many other businesses that are affected because of this rule. Am I correct?
Yes. Well, in my community of Point Pleasant, New Jersey, it starts from the restaurants, tourism, the towns itself, which relies on all the boats. Jesus, I mean, I have a tour set up this week with some people that want to come and see me and spend a day in my shoes. From the marina operators, fuel. Oh my goodness,
It's just going to devastate the economy, in other words, if this rule were to go into effect.
Absolutely.
But what's interesting is I'm curious to understand a little bit more about the analysis that NOAA used to estimate the economic impacts that could result from the proposed rule. NOAA estimates that boats like yours would still conduct business under a 10-knot speed limit that includes waters from the beaches out 90 miles for up to 7 months of the year. NOAA assumes your boats would still sail, but would just have to go slower. And NOAA also estimates that the increased time on the water results in only a $3,000 impact per vessel per year. That number seems a bit off compared to what you've described in your testimony. Can you explain how the NOAA analysis is flawed and why your boats that are over 35 feet could not be used to run charters with a 10-knot vessel speed restriction in place?
One particular trip that we offer is a trip out for tuna, which is anywhere from 70 to 100 miles. It would take us 8 hours to get there. No customer would ever pay the money. Trip would be canceled.
I imagine that you occasionally experience weather that is not very calm, perhaps with winds that create sizable waves. What would happen if you had to stay below 10 knots in unfavorable weather conditions?
We have been situations when we're out 70, 80 miles and the wind comes up out of the east. It just happens. And if we don't get out there in time, those 1 to 2 foot seas become 9 to 10 foot seas within an hour.
Did anyone from NOAA contact you personally about the potential impact of this proposed rule on your business?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I yield back. Thank you.